Well, Brett, thank you so much for
Sure.
making time to share your insights into the future. But before we move into the future, can you tell us a little bit about your own backgrounds?
Perfect.
Where did you grow up?
Perfect. So I'm a South African boy through and through. I grew up in Johannesburg, not far from this office building. I went to school
Right.
very close to that. I went to university in Johannesburg, so you can say I'm pretty localized to Johannesburg.
And what was your dream career when you grew up?
You know, I love sport, so I had a dream of maybe doing some sport more seriously, especially we played a lot of cricket and soccer. You dream of all those things, and then actually, I actually enjoyed helping people. I thought I would potentially be a teacher, actually.
Right.
But then looking at the financial and outcome of that, it sort of deterred me in a way, and that's not maybe the best thing to say, but just looking at the financial freedom that teachers had, I thought, it wasn't what I was going to do.
But I believe you're still teaching today in a way, aren't you?
Yeah, so I think the role has allowed me to help other people grow and learn, and so that's been amazing. I've been able to bring that into a career that potentially didn't have that from the outset. So that's been very fulfilling for me, and that really is what makes me get up, is being able to come here and help people. I enjoy that. That resonates a lot with me.
And who inspired you in your early days?
So I came from, I played a lot of sport and provincial sport, and I had a teacher that really looked after me significantly through school. Unfortunately, he's passed on now, but he was a mentor. His name was Mike Drake, and so he always motivated me to be better than I could. And then my parents, I had very loving parents. My dad and mom were very supportive, never over pushing or overbearing, but very supportive. So they allowed me to go the way I wanted, but guided me, and I always wanted to do well for them.
So what is it that drew you into the world of finance?
I think at school I started to enjoy the number side of it, although that was part of it, but I started to have a bit of an affinity to business, and I had a family friend who we used to go and visit often, and he was a CA, so I got speaking to him, and he sort of guided me through some careers. His name was Ian Shortreed, and eventually I thought, this is something I want to do. It's not only about the numbers, it's this ability to go and create businesses, work in businesses, big or small, and that sort of excited me. And I think the bigger business excited me because I always had this affiliation to people, so I enjoy being around people. So that had more staff generally, so that would be the route that I potentially went.
Now today you're heading Discovery Health, one of the biggest brands in the country, and I believe you've been with the brand for about 20 years.
Yeah, just not as much, 16 years.
Right.
And yeah, I could say I was fortunate, but on the other hand, when I looked at it to come here, it was the values that resonated with me. My desire is to help and grow people, and Adrian and this business's desire is to make people healthier and enhance and protect their lives. Right. So their vision and my vision lined up, and I think when you get that right, you find a perfect match. So people say, well, why don't you move? Why don't you look? I said, but this aligns totally up with who I am as a person. So I can be who I want to be, aligning up with the company's values and mission and objectives and all of that. And I think coming to work for me it's so much more than a job, because we come here and we know that we're really helping people.
Right.
We never always get it right, but we get these thank you for helping me with my oncology. You saved my father's life. My baby made it through ICU. It feels rewarding what we do. It feels bigger than just doing. It feels like we're contributing to society, and that drives me.
Brett, in many ways, Discovery is leading the world in the health sector. And you recently presented, I believe, a case study in Berkeley.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, so I think what's been amazing about the discovery journey is that we've really stumbled on a model that really works. And over time, we've been able to build this model that actually changes people's lifestyles to become healthier. And if they do that, it improves them and it improves the business, and they stay with us longer and we can reward them more, and the shared value model was born through this concept. And it's something that's quite unique. And when we go to Berkeley, they're very interested in, they're the number one public university in the US, and they're very interested in their health care sector,
Right.
academia, to learn about new business models around the world. So we've been going there for a few years, and I'm actually now almost an official part of their program that I go there once a year, and we share the case study of how discovery's actually impacted the health of people that engage in our system.
Right.
And this is all now scientifically proven and stuff. So I feel quite proud, not to go and present, but because we're a small African state, probably a fraction of a GDP of one of their small states there, but we've got a model that really can work.
Right. Now, Brett, in 2015, you were awarded the CFO of the Year. Can you tell us a little bit about the factors? What is it that made up for that nomination and the award?
Yeah, so I think obviously the usual ones, the company and the brand that you work for, that plays a big part in how your business is doing financially. So they look at the financial results of your business. Not that I can attribute that to me totally, but that counts. And then we went through a bunch of interviews around more than just being the CFO. What are you doing outside of being a CFO? There's a panel of judges. It's then judged by 12 or 15 very high-level CEOs. But I think some of the things that helped in my favor was that I've managed to build a bit of a brand outside of this business. So I'm quite well connected with Insica, and I write for them on a monthly basis in their magazine. I do a lot of talks around the world and in South Africa. And at that time, and which we're still doing, is that we're pioneering reporting to be included. So currently we've got, you've got profit, you've got your social reporting, you've got your environmental reporting, but there's nothing around well-being and health. So I'm pioneering that, and I've got government health ministers, SADC health ministers' approval to do that. So it's been a long road, and it's still going on. But at that time, I was pushing to have that in. So there was a lot of good social push. So I think those things all counted in my favor, I presume. And you have to be your CEO has to recommend you, and it was quite a lot of things that had to go through the process. Yeah.
I believe one of your greatest abilities is the ability to build high-performance teams.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, what does it take, in your opinion, to build a high-performance team?
So for me, I've always had a passion for bringing out the best in people. So I feel at the end of the day, if I've helped someone become better, then I've done a good job. So I've always built my teams on that. I'm there to bring out the best in people. I treat everybody as an individual. I have a very open door policy, which sometimes can be quite disruptive because people do come in. But what I've realized is that the input up front, the effort up front, reaps a much longer term reward.
Right.
And so I have very low staff turnover, often the number one ranked team in Discovery Health when we do the pulse surveys for the finance team. It's just that, people want to be respected, and I understand there's a contract between the company and them to work for so many hours, but I see it so much more than that. They're coming, they're giving up. This is part of their life. This is a big part of their life. How can I make it better? How can I help improve you? So just keep encouraging, working with them, investing in them. And it just works. That people, once they trust you and they're not scared to fail, and just telling the guys up front. It's just as important to share the bad news with me than the good news. People shy away from that. So once you create this environment of trust, it seems to work.
Right. And Brett, you talk about energy, especially high energy.
Yeah.
How do you keep that energy going? How do you personally keep that high energy going?
I think when your vision is set and you know where you're going, and my purpose is to help and to good in this country and this company.
Right.
It's just very easy. And I did a concept a while ago. I thought, why do business owners have so much energy? It's because they own the company. It's theirs. It's really theirs. So what I thought was, many years ago, I thought, if I just think like a business owner, if I think this is my company, and what really struck it was when I had my twin boys 14 years ago. I remember as a parent when they came, I wake up in the morning, I don't have to say, okay, now today I'm going to be a good father. It just comes naturally because they're mine. So I thought, well, why don't I change my thinking from an employer to that? This is my business. I own this. Everything I do is going to make, and that's how I think. So when I come to work, I see this as mine. Not in an arrogant way, but it's a change in mindset. So I don't have to wake up and go, hopefully I'll do my best for Discovery today. I just come here and hopefully I'll manage my team well. No, these are mine. This is how I impact. This impacts me. And that's just really gives me the energy. It makes me think differently. If you think like an employer, you act like an employer. If you think like an owner, you act like an owner, that this is yours. And owners do think differently, and they are more passionate. And if you hear Adrian and the founders talk, it's very different to someone who comes in as a middle manager. And so it was conditioning my mind to that.
Brett, looking back over your career, would you say there was a major turning point where things could have gone different, but you decided to take your career in a certain direction?
I'm not. I don't think so. Once I started articles, my wife was also a chartered accountant. She doesn't work now. She's running some non-profit organizations. That's our passion. We maybe share a bit on that. Some preschool education things we're doing. I always knew when I started becoming a CA in my state, I wanted to be a CFO. I wanted to run a big finance team and one that aligned to where I was. And so there was a bit of luck how I got into Discovery, but fortunately it was very low. So I always knew sort of when I started I wanted to be a CFO, not for the money or the title, but because I thought when I'm in that position I can really influence people for the better. And that was what drove me. And I wanted that from young. So I was fortunate, I think when I was 30, I got this role. And that was what I was heading for. But my vision is always to change people, make people become better. I love hearing stories from 3 years ago. Thank you for what you did, and I appreciate for what you did. That's what drives me. While doing all the other functions, but I just think if you're not impacting people and you're not changing people's lives, then what's the point of life?
Now, Brett, you mentioned your CSI activities or your contribution activities. Did you say in preschool?
Yeah, so we've got a big passion for educating people. So my wife and her two friends go into the poorest settlements in South Africa. So we've got two in just outside of Magaliesburg. They've got 2,000 shacks. They've got one tap. Got no electricity, and we now have built 2 preschools in that area. We educate 100 kids from age 2 to 6, give them a proper formalized education so they can go into grade 1 with a proper preschool education, and we fund all of it through fundraising, donations. We've got our big fundraiser next week where we raise a couple $100,000 rand that goes to it.
In Magaliesburg?
No, so the fundraiser is in 4 ways in Johannesburg, but we use that money to fund it. We fund the teachers. We've got a school called Preschools for Africa that got a formalized program, so it gets them through grade R, so that And so we can put eventually, I don't know, I think we've done this 5-6 years, we put maybe 80, 100 kids into primary school that would have just gone and never had that opportunity. So my wife's amazing. She was a chartered accountant, but now she's given it up and she basically does that for free. I mean, we don't get paid for that.
Right.
So yeah, so I really believe like in helping others, but also believe that education piece is so important. You know, give these kids that don't have a chance to have proper education, and we can have a better future.
So your role in the preschool, is it about fundraising, or are you also partaking in teaching? And
Not in teaching. So we do a lot of events there. So we do a lot of taking people out to help raise fundraising, help with the financing, I supported the functions. So I'm more of a support type of role. But what was good about this, and I think I posted something on the social media about the school that we were doing this, and CFO South Africa read it, and they started a new at the beginning of this year a new feature in their magazine every quarter. The CFO is doing good, so you can get promotion. So I was the first one in there now, so that sort of raised the awareness. So now they came and did a whole article and photos, and it was published there. And through there, we've raised quite a lot of extra funding through people who said, I want to help there and stuff. So I think...
So Brett, are you looking to replicate the model?
We'd love to do up to 10 schools. We really, it works well. We've got the model, the formula now. We've had no major injuries or crime, and this has been going, and this is in like an area where you'd think there would be a lot. But what I'm realizing is that these people are just desperate to improve. And they're grateful when you offer them help. So our goal is 10 schools. But obviously we're going slowly because we don't want to start. So we buy containers, and the containers are quite expensive. Then we keep them out in classrooms, so we don't have to build and anything. And then you have generators and so on and so on. But it's brilliant. These kids are, and then what I do every year is, because it's very important for me to take these kids out of their environment and bring them into an environment where they can see there's a bigger world. Because these kids, so we bring them to my house every year and we do a party for 100 of them, a Christmas party. We have a Father Christmas come and we give them presents, and we try and show these kids that there's a bigger future. Don't see this, your vision. And even though they're young, these young kids get it. They remember this in their mind. Come here, remember this, look at this house. This is not to show off, but see, this is what you can have one day. Don't see this. You must see a future, because if you see this, you're never going to get. That's what's going to limit you. So that's important. Just start dropping these seeds into these kids.
And Brett, can you maybe share with us what kind of dreams do these kids have?
So the kids are like my young kids. They play and they talk, and they've watched people on TV, and they've got soccer stars. These kids have got dreams like any other kid. It's harder for them because they got to go back into a shack with no electricity, to actually sometimes very little food. Most of them are looked after by grandmothers because the fathers are not there and the mothers have got to go and work somewhere. But these kids are wonderful. They've got such great smiles and attitudes, and some of them, just that we have water slides, and you've never seen these kids having some. They're exactly like any other kid. They just haven't been given the opportunity. And so all we try to do is just say, look, you've got dreams. Don't let those dreams die. Your start is not where you're going to end. And that's what's important for us. And if we can just we've got 100, we'd love to do maybe 500 a year. That just starts changing. Every bit starts changing the country.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Brett, let's talk about the future CFO.
Yeah.
As a leading CFO, how do you see the role of the CFO to change in the future?
So, for me, a couple of things. I said, very much involved in the data of the business. So more time spent on analyzing and planning from the data that we receive rather than spending time doing the data.
Right.
And that's just an absolute imperative. I think there's no negotiating to that. So, so that's important. The next step is obviously communication skills. I think the CFO is going to have to be, far more, sort of affluent in how they speak and how they communicate and how they interpret data. What does this data mean? So many companies have got data, but they can't use it or interpret it. How are you going to use that to change the future of the business? And then also, I think in managing talent, CFOs have got to become great mentors and talent managers. How are you going to find the skills that we don't have now to run your finance department that's going to look very different, where the financials are done for you, the ledger's balanced? What does this mean? How does the future look? And really find that talent. I think that's going to be absolutely key.
And when it comes to leadership, Brett, what would you say? What have you learned from your own journey that you consider critical for building future CFO leaders?
Yeah, I think you've got to you've got to be unsensitive. You've got to be you can't please everybody here, unfortunately, but you can do it in a way that you bring people along. And that's a real skill as a CFO. I often find CFOs are unliked because they're quite harsh, or they're unliked because they just say yes to everything. But there's a way of bringing the yeses and the nos along, but in a way, and not being sensitive about it. So it's a lot of that sort of leadership. And then I think just a passion for the business. Often the CFOs get so caught up in their role. How are you actually going to go and understand the business? You've got to go and immerse yourself in the business. I think CFOs often make great leaders, and they're great leaders to run businesses, but they're sort of always in the back. The CEO just comes in when the numbers are needed. I need to change that. I need to be, like I always do, is have a part in my diary once a week where I just sit and think of, and I've done this for 15 years, of ideas for outside of my business. And we have a competition that runs here called Inspiring Excellence, where you can submit ideas every year. And I always try and think of ideas outside of my business. So I submitted one on Insure. So just think bigger than your role. Think broadly.
Right.
And also willingness to learn. How many books are you reading a week? How many, courses, if need be, are you doing? What are you doing to understand where the future is going? What is the future going to look like? Not just for CFO. I think people just narrowly, bundle CFO into financial stuff. There's so much more how are you going to manage people? How are you going to communicate?
Right.
Where's data science going? What does that mean for finances? Where's the world of work going? What do millennials want to do? You just go on and on. So all those skills that you don't necessarily be taught at varsity, you need to learn.
Right.
So Audible's my friend. I read a lot. Just listen to books and.
Now, Brett, when you speak to aspiring CFOs, what is it you tell them are the challenges, or maybe the biggest challenges they might encounter in their career?
Yeah, so I think one of the things is, first of all, is patience. So seeing with this younger generation is that they're very eager and they're passionate, and they often want to get ahead of their time, which is a good thing, and we've got to manage it. But a lot of that is just be patient. The cream always rises to the top. What some of the younger guys and ladies don't see is that we're actually very attuned to who our stars are in this business. We've got a very detailed talent management, which our ex-guys, we know. Don't think we don't know. Just be patient. Don't jump or leave a business because you think you're not moving up quickly. And I often have to just manage people in that, because the stars will rise to the top. There's always a time. So be patient. The other is just learn. Just, do more than the person next to you. Remember, go and network. Go and build relationships with other executives and other businesses. Ask for a coffee with the CEO. You might not get it, and you might, or the COO, and just go and say, can I have a half an hour of your time, teach me something. And you know what happens is when the name comes up for a position, who do you think these people remember? They remember these people. It's building networks. This is not funny or cheesy. This is strategic. You've got to build your own career. A lot of young people think, well, I've done my time, and now I'm like, no, you are just as much as important for building your own career. And what have you done to build your career? If I left this block on Discovery and went to the next block, would anybody know who you are? You know, what are you doing? This takes effort to build a career. It's not, these things don't just land on your lap. So that's what I had to do, and it works well. And those are the people I'm looking for. I love people who say, please can I have half an hour of your time just so I can learn. I'm like, wow, this person is going out of their way to try and grow their skills. They're passionate about our business. They're doing all they can. Those are the type of leaders that we want in the business.
So Brett, if you were to design a curriculum for the future CFO, what are the new skills you would want to factor in?
Yeah, so exactly around a lot around data and data analysis, data science. Instead of having a course, maybe where they've had, like in the first, I think you had computer science and building a much detailed data. I don't know if that includes coding, maybe not, or maybe a bit, but actually understand that. Then the other skills would be really much of stand up and present. I haven't had to present. Stand up in class. One of your marks for the one term should be, how did you present in front of 500 first year? And I don't know how practical that will be or whatnot, but you have to be able to stand up and communicate a story under pressure. That's what CFOs have to do. When you're sitting with analysts or you're doing a presentation, you can't, it's not an easy situation. The pressure's on, your results may not be where the market wanted. You've got to learn those skills. So that would be very much one. Then I think, such an important part of this is like mentoring, building teams, getting people unified. That's not taught. You're taught to sit behind a desk, do these case studies. You're not taught, and the business world is so different now. Part of such a big part of my role is going between the CIO and having to tell her she can't have this, or going to the CIO and saying, we can't spend that money and we need to cut your budget. Those are not easy conversations, and it's not just sitting in a room sending out an email, you can't do this. You've got to engage, you've got to keep them on your side, you've got to, those skills are so important. Why learn them on the job when you can actually be taught a bit? Have case studies, have those things. So make the curriculum, do the basic accounting and stuff. But as we know how the world is going, is that's going to be done by computers. So if you know basically how an income and balance sheet works, why do you have to sit in an exam and write it out? That's not going to help you, in my view. It's going to help you these other skills that are just the softer skills that are totally missing.
Now, Brett, when it comes to social media, what is your advice for future CFOs? How should they go about handling social media to build their own brands?
Yeah, so social media is a great tool. I use Twitter, but my primary channel is LinkedIn. I find it very useful tool. But I have a couple of rules. Is that fortunately and unfortunately, your brand and your company's brand are tied together. So whatever you say is almost seen as an opinion of the company. So you've got to be very careful. Don't argue. Don't post anything that will raise major debate. So you can build your brand by being, I've always said, just be positive, be uplifting, and don't voice a strong opinion on social media, because that's just going to bring so I think it's critical, and I made a good effort a while back, and I don't know how many followers, like 11,000 now. So, but it gives me a good brand. So when I need that fundraising or something, and I want to do good, I've got a good exposure. When I want to say something good about Discovery, I can put it there and people respond. And so it's a great tool, but you've got to be responsible. And once you've made a comment, it's there forever. So that's why I always just keep it very bland. But I think you're crazy not to be on.
Right. Now, Brett, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an up-and-coming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Yeah. So there's a few. There's a guy that was not doing really well, and they asked me to work with him, and he's now a senior manager, one of our businesses overseas. In fact, there were two that left. One went from a very junior manager into a senior manager. Currently mentoring a lady now that was going through a real tough time and with her career, and guided her through a few principles, and I can explain maybe what some of those are. She's now got a promotion and she's doing so. What I find with mentoring is the key theme that comes through is a lot of unbelief. People don't believe they're good enough in where they are. So I just spend a lot of time in actually showing them you actually are good enough, and using that Simon Sinek model of the why, what, and how. Find your why, and there's an exercise I do where we go through a whole bunch of questions and we actually come out to what is your why? What is your why statement? Why do you want to live on this planet? And I direct them back to that, and I give them confidence, and I say, now go and be that person. And I think that's what it is. It's very little talking. It's just really pointing them, saying you've got potential. Because for people that generally ask for mentoring that I found are people that are struggling with self-confidence. It just seems to be the more, when you're confident going, well, you don't need a mentor. When things aren't going that well, I don't know if that's right or wrong, then they're asking. So it's just showing, and you know what, without fail, every person improves after that. But not me, it's that they start believing in themselves again. When you believe in yourself, then suddenly things are clearer. But when you don't believe in yourself, nothing is clearer. So it's just prompting them, getting back. It's actually very simple. You know how you feel if someone comes to you and praises you and says you're good. You feel a lot better than when you came in before you heard that praise. And it's a simple psychological trick that you can do to get people out of this and show them. And a lot of these people have got good CVs, they perform, but they still have just got this doubt.
So, Brett, would you say this is something we should do at a much earlier age to instill this self-belief?
Absolutely.
Maybe even in our kids?
Absolutely. So self-awareness and self-belief are absolutely critical. To be aware what you've got. So not everybody has got the same talent. Unfortunately, the young people all go look at this and then measure themselves against somebody. Instead of saying, let's self-aware, what talents have I got? Oh, I might not be the great, but I've got these talents. I might not. We always look to the best in something and then feel inferior. So it's so critical that we make these young people and people self-aware. What have you got? And then give them the confidence in what they've been given. We're all different. I cannot compare myself to Johnny, our CEO, who's just brilliant at certain things, and I'm good at other things. So I don't compare myself to him. I aspire to get good, but that's not a pressure that measures my worth. It's an aspiration. I see how well he speaks. I want to be better, so I aspire, but it's not my benchmark and who I am. So self-awareness is, and with the proliferation of what these kids see on social media, it's all happy and it's plays with their minds. That these kids think, and that's why they're saying that this depression and anxiety is on the rise, because people are measuring against the wrong standard. They've all been given unique gifts and talents, but they measure themselves against. The funny thing I've seen with people is they always measure themselves up. We never measure ourselves down. So when we're going through a tough time, we don't go. So when the lights go off, I say to people, "What are you moaning about? You've got electricity. How many people in the world don't have electricity? You don't have electricity for 4 hours. So what? You've got electricity all the time. We always look up. Look at Europe's got electricity all the time, and we don't. But you don't look down. Go drive over there and see how many people don't have electricity. It's just like, so it's just refocusing these people. Be grateful for what you've got. When you're going through a tough time, look down. When you're going through a good time, look down. Don't look up to measure. Look up when you want to aspire to be things, But when you're feeling down, look down. You're always better than someone else. And it's creating that sort of awareness.
Now, Brett, are there any role models of leadership that you would recommend future CFOs should study and maybe learn from?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, probably a couple, but I think if you look at, and I don't have to blow Adrian Gore's trumpet here, but he is just a brilliant leader. And the reason why I say that is that he always, whenever he talks to us, he always points us back to the vision of why we started, and then he gives us hope. He says, we've got a purpose, we've got a, being a Christian myself and studying, I was quite clear on having this vision, and you've got to have, if you have a vision, it says that people perish. What I love about Adrian is he always keeps that vision there. That's where we're going. That's why we formed this place. Never, in bad times where the share price drops or members aren't, forget about that. Why did we form this? That's where we're going. And I love that type of leadership. Optimism, keep your vision. When you lose that vision, you're just wandering around. If Adrian goes, I don't think that's our vision anymore, where do we go? What does that mean for us? But in every presentation, he says, guys, our job is to make people healthy and enhance and protect their lives. Okay, that's my purpose. Well, the numbers haven't been there this quarter, but that's what we're here for, and we keep going. Then the numbers improve. Then he said, don't gloat about that. No, we're here to make people healthy and enhance and protect their lives. I just love that type of leadership. People need something to hang on to and follow, because people are like happy when electricity's on, down. Well, what is our vision for this country? If we all knew this unified vision, we're all going, we want unemployment down, and we hang on to that, I find it'd be so much better for us all than, just when things are good, we're happy, when things are bad, we're down. And that's how humans work. It's funny. So that's why his leadership really works for me, is that whenever I leave his talk, it doesn't matter how good or bad the situation, I feel, that's our purpose. Okay, refocus, get back. So,
right. And Brett, how can our listeners follow you, and where should they connect with you?
So LinkedIn is a good spot, and then I write on the leadership section of the Accountancy SA magazine.
Right.
I think that's every 2 months. I used to write every month, but now I think it's every 2 months. So I write a leadership article in there every 2 months. Or LinkedIn I do a bit, and then I do quite a lot of speaking and talking.
Right.
Where you're welcome to come along.
And Brett, last but not least, is there one piece of advice that you would like to convey to future leaders, future CFOs, that they should implement in their own life?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. We're very fortunate to live in South Africa, and those that have done well here have been fortunate. But don't forget about our people. Don't become selfish. Don't lock yourself in a bubble, which I hear all the time, and don't worry about everything else. Our responsibility is to all our people. And there's a quote, if I get it, from a theologian called Tim Keller. He says, people say they love our city, but they actually only love their experience of the city. And he says, to truly love the city is to make the city a great place for everybody to live. And that's my advice that I give to people. Don't just think about yourself. Being a citizen, think about others. Do what you can. Make this a great city for everybody. When the lowest level of person, whatever that is, says, I love living in Joburg, then we start to becoming great. And then we start to, so never forget that.